The vision of the University of Notre Dame is to be the premier Catholic research university in the world. But you can't be a great research university without getting out into the marketplace. The more we can make our research count, the more we can make our research impactful for the world, that's what we're after. ESTEEM is a one-year master's program that was put together really to help the university make sure that it was fulfilling this part of its mission by engaging young, extremely talented, extremely curious, and almost restless students to come to a program that's going to give them the skill sets to be great innovators, great entrepreneurs. The class of 2018 is an exceptional group of men and women who have come to this program and done amazing things. They have really worked in a variety of ways to fix things that matter.
I was diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis as a teenager. The treatment that I was given was weekly injections, and it's something that I've been dealing with now for, close to 10 years. In a design class, when we were trying to fix problems for people in their everyday lives or improve the design of something, we were sitting together, me, Emily, and Marissa, in our house, and we're like, what can we do? Like, what? And then I had to take my shot, and light bulbs kind of went on there. There are 3 million people in the US with autoimmune disease that requires these types of subcutaneous injections. And so when we were asking the patients, what are your problems? And a lot of them are, fear, the technique that's involved, because you have to do it at the right angle so it gets into the right layer of tissue. If it doesn't, the medicine may not be absorbed properly, so you're throwing like $2,000 worth of your injection down the drain, This is our most recent version right now, and it's probably like
12.0.
12.0, version 12.0. We've been doing this since August.
As you can see on the prototype, those are the bumps, the protrusions on the bottom. So from the gate theory of pain, if you saturate those nerves, the patient's less likely to feel anything, which we have the most recent time Michaela took her shot, she literally was like, oh my gosh, I didn't feel this go in. And we were like, are you serious? And she's like, yeah. And so that's when we realized it's, these 10-year-olds are seeing the needle, they might perceive more pain than there actually is.
Yeah. It's actually funny, she knows my injection schedule better than I do now, because she's always like, oh, it's time to videotape another one of your injections to see if our prototype works.
What I learned from ESTEEM is no solution is done in one shot, no pun intended. You have to go out and keep refining and pivoting and making sure that you're open and learning along the way.
What I'm most proud of looking at their projects and the work that they've done this year is taking on things that aren't just going to get a new company out there and kind of make a splash financially, but are going to solve real, deep human needs. And I think that's the unique flavor of ESTEEM.
I'm working with a startup based in Budapest called Windtech, and Windtech is developing award-winning applications. So they can read neuron patterns, they can tell the attention levels, so they can either provide a communication bridge for paralyzed patient to control the application by blinking, or they can tell an amazing feedback for learning disability patients when they're not focusing, how they focus better to learn the best practices of learning.
My sister is 21 years old and severely autistic, and I firsthand seen the problems that my parents have been faced with.
There's so many individuals, 590,000, over the next 5 years just with autism that are transitioning out of the high school system. And right now, the infrastructure in place is just not ready to handle it. So these parents are frustrated. We've had so many crying moms just begging for some sort of guidance.
It's not documented appropriately, and those steps that you have to take in order to transition can be very tedious for the parent and everyone else involved. And so we started tackling that problem in the local area.
For me, the picture is kind of it's toward a Pan-African platform. Can I easily be from Rwanda and go do business in Kenya? Can I find those legal information? Imagine if you only to do business in Indiana and you can't sell or do any activities outside Indiana. That's the case in Africa.
We were looking at the elderly and we found out that they've got lots of afflictions like arthritis, osteoporosis, and afflictions like these makes it difficult for them to handle objects. I first thought of an electric kettle, but apparently they don't use those here. So Val recommended a water pitcher instead. So we're looking at the design of a conventional pitcher, and because you're holding it over here, but the center of mass is in the middle, tends to pull your wrist forward, putting it under strain. So we said, why does the handle have to be on the outside? Yeah. If we put it and align it with the center of gravity, now there's no more twisting moment on your wrist. The weight is equally distributed about your hand, and it should be easier to lift and pour. Overall, we want this company to help people live independent lives in their own homes for longer.
Two most frequent phrases that our dean, David Murphy, loves to say is to impact and fix things that matter. And it's actually those combined that get me to wake up every morning at the top of the mission that I stand for.
I mean, we have people that are working on 4 or 5 different projects at a time this year. I mean, you have your own thesis project, but then you have people that are passionate about doing something good in the world.
Different people bouncing ideas off each other creates really solid teams and ideas.
I mean, we could not be more different, but we work really well together. Watcher's a wearable technology that can measure biofeedback in autistic children. So when children with autism enter a new environment, sometimes the stimuli can create an intense emotional reaction, like a flight or flight response, and they can become violent to the people around them or themselves. So it can be difficult for parents to ensure the safety of everyone in that environment. It's really stressful for them. We've gone through about 25 interviews, essentially validating the pain points and the value propositions. They bring up the pain of always having to be aware. Have your child within 30 feet of them. If you're at a barbecue, you can't really turn around. You have to be aware of what's going on.
I like to think of Watcher as a communication tool. We're helping severely autistic children that are often nonverbal, and this is a way for them to directly communicate with their parents, and we're just kind of a channel for them to do that.
Our ESTEEM students are really doing things that make a difference in people's lives, and it's so cool to see. It's awesome to just even have a small role in helping to give the advice that you can to help set them up for success.
I've seen people like in my family, fail multiple times when they're doing business, and they've gotten better over the course of the years. And I kind of wanted to skip through all the failures. Not that I can avoid doing that at all, but at least a little bit like a shortcut. Like, hey, here's all the tools that you need. Now you can fail, but you can fail in smart ways.
For most of us, we have to make sure what we think we know is all happening in the real world. So that's something that I learned through the ESTEEM program.
Validate, validate, validate.
Yeah, get out of the building.
We're sort of infusing innovation with virtue, with how do I change the world? How do I impact other people's lives? And that could be in, curing cancer or sustainable energy or, housing in Haiti.
Through conversations and through research and looking up, we kind of came across this problem of lung cancer and the potential solution of lung cancer screening. So over the last 2 years, a new technology has come out called low-dose CT scanning, which basically can detect lung cancer at its earliest stages.
5 years ago, I was at the Mayo Clinic and I had a mass removed from my spine. By that point, I was paralyzed completely on my left side from my waist down, and I kept on being told that I'd never be able to walk again. And I am very stubborn as a person. I sat in front of the physical therapy closet full of all these crazy things, and I just started taping together different pieces of equipment until I finally had something I could use. I built this contraption where it would hold my body weight and move my legs in a normal walking motion. When my medical team up there had seen what I designed, they said that this needed to be used for all individuals with unilateral immobility. So that means lower limb amputees, people who have a stroke, or a specific group of spinal cord injury patients. A lot of our diabetes patients, which compose most of our population, our amputee population, will never get their prosthetic because they are so sedentary during that time, their body can't handle it down the road. So with Enlighten Mobility, we are intervening as soon as we possibly can, right after the surgery. So our device still absorbs the weight in the hip as their prosthetic does, but we have no pressure on the wound. We mitigate the fall risk as well through our gait trainer, so there is no chance that their wound could be reopened. But we're teaching them the biomechanics of walking. So by the time that they have their prosthetic, it'd be a seamless transition. It could radically challenge the status quo around rehabilitation and having rehab in the hospital and in the home and have people be visible.
We were really honored to make it to the finals of the McCloskey New Venture competition. ESTEEM had prepared us on how to pitch and how to be able to tell our story in the most effective way that we could. We were really humbled to have won the grand prize for the competition and to be validated for the work that we're doing. After ESTEEM, when I see a hurdle, I now see opportunity. I don't see roadblocks as a bad thing or deterring me. I see them as ways to be creative.
Coming from a science background, I feel like my tools have really been sharpened to be able to go out into either scientific or business settings and really to be able to make a valuable contribution.
I'm more inspired, more motivated, and I'm kind of going with a very different energy back home.
This is ESTEEM. This is a small window of amazing work that happens in the program. And Fixing Things That Matter ties back to Father Soren's vision and mission for the university, which was that Notre Dame would be a powerful force for good in the world. And these projects and the work that these students are doing, that's all part of that mission. It's a huge part of who we are at Notre Dame, and we're proud to send them on their way.